Shri Gurubhyo Namah Harihi Om Dhyayamo Dhavalavagunthanavatim Tejomayim Naishtikim Snigdhapangavilokinim Bhagavatim Mandasmitashrimukhim Vatsalyamritavarshiniim Sumadhuram Sankirtanalapinim Syamangim Madhusiktasuktim Amritanandatmikam Om Amriteshwaryai Namah Om Amriteshwaryai Namah Om Amriteshwaryai Namah. Om Amriteshwaryai Namah. We have discussed so far the 37 verses of Hanuman Chalisa. We'll continue with the discussion. Today we'll discuss the 38th, 39th and the 40th verses of the Hanuman Chalisa of the 40 verses, which basically means we'll be discussing the last 3 verses of the text. Of course, we have one other, doha, or one other extra, the part that we chant without rhythm. We have that part left, which we'll discuss the next week. So today, the 3 verses are more or less focusing on the importance of Hanuman Chalisa, or what should be our attitude, or what should we keep in mind when we have Hanuman Chalisa as the text that we focus on and we want to develop devotion inspired by Hanuman. So 38, 39 and 40. So what are the 3 verses? 38th verse is Jo Shatvar और जो शत बार पाठ कर कोई छूट ही बंदी महासुख होए. Everything okay? You can. And then the 39th verse, जो यह पढ़े हनुमान चालीसा होए सिद्धि साखी गौरीसा. And the 40th verse, तुलसीदास और तुलसीदास सदा हरि चेरा की जयनाथ हृदय मह डेरा. So these are the 3 verses we'll look into. Let's, as always, begin with the pronunciation, the 38th verse in 4 parts. I'll pronounce it in 4 parts. Please respond after me once. So let's begin. Jo Shat Bar. Jo Shat Bar. Sha and Sa again can be interchanged, so it could be Shat or Sat. Both are fine. Jo Shat Bar. And Paath Kar Koi. Paath Kar Koi. Chhoot Hi Bandi. Chhoot Hi Bandi. Maha Sukh Hoi. Maha Sukh Hoi. All together once. Please repeat after me once. Jo Shat Bar Paath Kar Koi Chhoot Hi Bandi Maha Sukh Hoi. Jo Shat Bar Paath Kar Koi Chhoot Hi Bandi Mahasukh Hoi. The 39th verse in 4 parts. Jo yeh padhe. Jo yeh padhe. Hanuman Chalisa. Hanuman Chalisa. Hoye Siddhi. Hoye Siddhi. Sakhi Gaurisha. Sakhi Gaurisha. It could be Gaurisha or Gaurisa. Typically, I think we do it Gaurisa. It could be interchanged, Sha and Sa. So once together, Jo yeh padhe Hanuman Chalisa hoy siddhi sakhi Gaurisa. Together, sorry, once together, Jo yeh padhe Hanuman Chalisa hoy siddhi sakhi Gaurisa. Then 40th verse, Tulsi Das, Tulsi Das, Sada Hari Chera, Sada Hari Chera, Kijay Nath, Kijay Nath, Hriday Mah Dera, Hriday Mah Dera. So once all together, Tulsi Das Sada Hari Chera Kijay Nath Hriday Mah Dera. Tulsi Das Sada Hari Chera Kijay Nath Hriday Mah Dera. So let's look into the meaning first, word by word, and then discuss further. The 38th verse, Jo sat bar paath kar koi. Jo, one who. Shat bar, shat or sat refers to the number 100. Bar or var, times. So 100 times one who. Paath kar koi. Paath kar koi, paath to not just one way of interpreting paath is to just chant or sing or repeat. Rather, paath also means to learn, to imbibe. Paath kar, to do, koi, one who. So who, jo koi, one who, shat bar paath kar, one who repeats or rather imbibes the Hanuman Chalisa 100 times. Chutahi, one becomes free. Bandi, one who is bound. The one who is bound, one who is encaged. It could also be interpreted as bondage per se. So bondage is freed or one who is bound is freed. It could be interpreted in both the ways. Maha, great. Sukh, happiness. Pleasure, bliss, hoi, happens. So one who chants the Hanuman Chalisa 100 times, he becomes free and attains the ultimate or great level of happiness or bliss. That's the 38th verse. The 39th verse says, Jo yeh padhe Hanuman Chalisa. Jo, one who, yeh, this, yeh, padhe. Again, padhe could be interpreted as read, one who reads, or padhe also means learn. So one who learns Hanuman Chalisa. Hanuman Chalisa, Chalis, the number 40 is what Chalis means. Chalisa is a text that comprises of 40 verses. So one who learns or one who reads the Hanuman Chalisa, the 40 verses of Hanuman, hoya becomes siddhi. One becomes siddhi. We discussed the term siddhi in one of the previous verses. Anyway, we'll just recollect that siddhi, high level of perfection, or to get extraordinary abilities. Hoya siddhi. Sakhi, witness. Who is the witness? Gaurisha. Gauri, goddess Parvati. Gaurisha, lord of goddess Parvati or consort of goddess Parvati. Who is that? Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva is verily the witness for this fact that one who imbibes, one who learns Hanuman Chalisa will become a perfected being or will attain high level of abilities and perfection. That is what the 39th verse says. And what does the 40th verse say? It says, Tulsi Das. Who is Tulsi Das? I hope we remember. The one who composed Hanuman Chalisa. We discussed that in the very first session or the second session, the introduction part. Tulsi Das, that's more like a signature. It's typical of many poets to put their signature in the verse that they compose, the work that they do as part of their versification. So it's a signature, Tulsi Das. Sada, ever. Hari, Hari is Lord Vishnu's name. Chera, Chera, one who is devoted to, or one who is in service to, one who is the servant of. So Tulsi Das, one who is Lord Vishnu's, at Lord Vishnu's service, always, Sada, always in Lord Vishnu's service. Ki Jai Nath, Ki Jai, do, to perform. To perform what? Nath, Lord, oh Lord. Nath basically means oh Lord. So, oh Lord, do this. Do what? Hriday, my heart. Hriday Mah, Mah Hriday, my heart. Dera, Dera basically means the abode of the divine. So, make my heart your abode. So, Tulsi Das concludes with his signature telling, I am Tulsi Das ever in service of Lord Vishnu. Please, O Lord, do this. Do at least this, that make my heart your shrine. Make your heart your abode. So these are the three verses, 38, 39, 40. The 38 basically says one who repeats, or more importantly imbibes the Hanuman Chalisa 100 times, is freed from bondage and attains supreme bliss. One who reads or one who learns Hanuman Chalisa attains perfection, and none other than Lord Shiva is the witness to this fact. And Tulsi Das, who is Lord Vishnu's servant, who is always at Lord Vishnu's service, O Lord, make my heart, or make the heart your shrine, your abode. So these are the last three verses of Hanuman Chalisa. So let's discuss much more in detail. So we begin with the 38th verse, which says to chant the Hanuman Chalisa 100 times. The stress here is about constant chanting. Very important as part of our spiritual practice in the path of bhakti, in the path of devotion. Constant chanting, constant remembrance is the integral part of the path of devotion or bhakti. Let's begin with an example. We have discussed, perhaps, I'm not very sure whether we discussed it during Hanuman Chalisa, the example of Ratnakara, the forest dweller, who eventually was transformed into a sage, Valmiki. So Ratnakara was a forest dweller who would hunt to make his living, and he had a family to take care of, and he couldn't just take care of his family just with his hunting. So what did he do? He started robbing people, and it went to an extent so as to keep up his family, he had to even start killing people to rob them. So he got more and more into sinful acts that were not righteous in nature, adharmic acts. And once it happened, so he would basically be a roadside robber who would go to the extent of kill someone to rob them. And he would hide behind a tree, and then he would spring out of his hiding place and startle them, and in that process he will rob them. So once sage Narada happened to be passing through the forest, and he sees that this person is coming. He has a few ornaments, and he has a valuable musical instrument with him, whichever is hanging around Narada's body, and he's ready to rob him. He springs forth in front of Narada, and he demands all that he possesses. And Narada asks him, why do you want all this? And he says, I have to take care of my family, so I need all this. And he says, so you're doing all this for your family, not for yourself? He says, yes, I'm doing all this for my family, and I need to do it. I have no other choice. So he asks him, what you're doing is wrong. Do you know that? He says, yes, I know that to some extent, but I have to do it. He says, okay, you're doing this for your family, so you think your family will, as they bear all that you get through this process, will they also bear the fruit of your actions? And he says, I don't know. He says, why don't you do this? I'll wait here for you. Go and verify with your family, will they bear the fruit of your misdeeds here? Will they bear the fruits of that? If so, come back and tell me that. And he goes back, asks his son, asks his wife, asks his father, whoever else is there as part of his family for whom he's doing all this. And he asks each one of them, will you share the fruits of these actions that I perform, the ill deeds that I'm performing, the robbing, the killing, the adharmic acts? And as Narada explained to him, none of them, they were all like, no thanks, but no thanks. We are ready to share what you bring as part of the robbery, but in terms of fruits, they find some way or the other to, wash their hands off. And that is a big revelation for Ratnakara. And he comes back very confused. He comes back very dejected. And he tells Narada, no one is ready to take or share the fruits of these actions. I am completely appalled by the nature of this world. And Narada says, yes, this is time for you. This is the perfect time. Probably this is the turning point in your life for you to focus on much more meaningful things that you need to do. So to start with the name of Lord Rama. And he introduces Lord Rama to him. And Valmiki is so inspired by just listening to the stories of Lord Rama. And he says, what do I do to get out of this sinful shell that I'm in, to get out of this cocoon of misdeeds? He says, start chanting Lord Rama's name. Very simple. Just he initiates him. Everything okay? That's okay. It'll keep going. So chant Lord Rama's name. And we don't have our usual team that does the webcast. So thanks to who filled in short notice. So it's working. So it's fine. Even if the computer restarts. So he says, chant Lord Rama's name. And he's so sinful that he's not able to even pronounce Lord Rama's name. Simplest of the words, simplest of the names. And because he's not able to do it, Narada tells him, it's fine. Don't chant Rama, chant Mara. He swaps the syllables. Instead of Rama, chant Mara, 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 Mara. In turns, when you chant it constantly, it becomes Rama. Again, a pointer, it needs to be chanted constantly. Only then Mara, even a meaningless word Mara, becomes meaningful when constantly chanted. So that's what it's the verse, the 39th verse, 38th verse of Hanuman Chalisa says, one who repeats it 100 times. So just to stress on the importance of repeating it. And Valmiki was so into it. He was so influenced, positively influenced by it, by the name that he would keep repeating Rama, 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 Rama. It went on for ages, it seems. And when Narada came back, he sees that Valmiki is so engrossed in chanting the Lord Rama's name that wherever he sat as penance, ant hill was built over him, and he didn't recognize that. He didn't even realize ant hill was built over him. He was so dedicated and engrossed in the chanting of Lord Rama's name. And Narada comes and then wakes him up from his state of penance and brings him out of that ant hill and frees him from the ant hill built over him. So the Sanskrit term for ant hill is Valmika, Valmika. And one who came out of Valmika is Valmiki. That's how he gets the name sage Valmiki. So his constant effort of chanting the name constantly transformed him from a forest dweller, killer, robber, hunter to a sage who went on to becoming the Adi Kavi. Adi Kavi basically means the first ever poet, and he went on to compose the Ramayana. Uh, the Adi Kavi, the most ancient poet who composed Ramayana. So that's the transformation, constant chanting, constant remembrance brought into someone. So it's just a beautiful, inspiring example that we can um, draw inspiration from. We can all bring in that positive change in us through the path of devotion, in the path of devotion, through constant remembrance and chanting. If we have paid attention to the Archana book, with which we chant the Lalita Sahasranama, the thousand names of the Divine Mother, in the back part of the Lalita Sahasranama, there's a quote of Amma which basically says, Devi, the Divine Mother, always protects those who chant the thousand names, the Lalita Sahasranama, with devotion every day. They will never face a shortage of food and basic necessities, and will also gain spiritual growth. This is Amma's words, which is printed behind the Lalita Sahasranama. So, definitely, as we read this quote, we need to pay attention. It's not just about chanting it every day, it's also to chant it with devotion, which Amma says. So, it's not just about mechanically chanting it, but it is to chant it with the right attitude. The Bhagavad Gita, chapter 12, which is Bhakti Yoga, which is about devotion. One of the verses goes as Atha chittam samadhatum nashaknoshi mai sthiram abhyasa yogena tato mam ichhaptum dhananjaya. Lord Krishna is talking about bhakti, how a devotee should be. So the context of this verse is wherein Lord Krishna says a true devotee is one whose mind is steadfast, ever focused on me and me alone. When he says me, it's about the divine qualities and the divine qualities alone. And the next verse is this, wherein he says, if atha chittam samadhatum nashaknoshi mai sthiram. So mai chittam samadhatum atha nashaknoshi mai na shaknoshi. If one is not able to invest one's mind steadfast, unwaveringly on me, if that is not possible, what is the next best thing to do? Abhyasa yoga. Abhyasa yogena, through abhyasa yoga, tata, then mam, me, ichhaptum, one can attain me, one could reach me. Dhananjaya, O Arjuna. O Arjuna, if one is not able to invest one's mind unwaveringly on me, then what is the next best thing? Through abhyasa yoga, through constant practice, through constant remembrance, through constant effort, one could reach up to me. Which again, this verse again reiterates what the 38th verse of Hanuman Chalisa is trying to convey. It is trying to tell us, repeat it as many times, numerous number of times. Not just repeat it mechanically, but repeat it with the right understanding. So next time we are in a situation where we are getting triggered, or where our it's a tense situation, or our negative emotions kind of brim up, what is the best thing to do? Chant our mantra a few number of times. It really works. The time when someone tells you something and you are ready to react, and cutthroat reaction, or you have that particular email which triggers you, and you are itching to send an email back to that person. Best thing to do then is keep a count, 54 or 108. Just chant your mantra, the mantra that Amma advised you with, initiated you with. Chant it 54 times or 108 times. It is definitely true that by the end of the number of times we chant that mantra, our attitude would have at least changed slightly. So chanting the mantra is definitely going to have an effect on us. And like I mentioned earlier, what is more important, or what is as equally important, is not just about chanting it 100 times, 108 times, 54 times, or chanting it numerous number of times. What is also very important, or probably all the more important, is how we chant it. Not to just chant it mechanically. Chanting it mechanically perhaps will never give us the result that we are aiming for. What makes it fruitful is the attitude with which we chant it. When we say chant 100 names or 1,000 names, 100 times, a thousand times, it basically tells us you are doing it again and again and again and again to focus on the qualities, the teachings that that particular text conveys. You read Hanuman Chalisa once, which probably we have done through the discussion. When we discuss it once, we have discussed a lot of great inspiring qualities Hanuman has, and we have discussed about it, we have forgotten about it too, right? It's just natural. But when we do it again and again and again and again, we are reflecting on those qualities again and again and again and again. And as we reflect on them again and again, it becomes much more natural for us to imbibe those qualities. That's the reason why we are told do it again and again. That's what we do in terms of learning anything. We want to learn how to type very quickly on the computer. We do it again and again. We want to learn music. We want to do it again and again. We want to learn tabla. We want to learn playing tennis. We do it again and again. The more and more we do it, it becomes our nature. That's primarily the reason we are talking about numerous number of times, so as to make it natural for us. So to reflect on the significance and the principles of that text is most important. That is probably the reason when Amma says, when you chant the 1,000 names, we will have no shortage of food or basic necessities. Why? Because we repeat it every day. We are focusing on the names wherein it says the Divine Mother who is least affected by what is around, Divine Mother who is the humblest of all, Divine Mother who can live with the least of everything, and we reflect on those qualities, we automatically start imbibing that. And with the least of things that we have around us, we become satisfied and content. And then there'll be no more problems, because problems are what we define. Problems are not what come from outside. Whatever comes from outside, for one of us, it may be a problem. For someone else, it may be a treat. It's like one person who, I was in this C20 food related conference. It was a beautiful phrase that they use. Someone's food waste could be someone else's feast. Is that a saying? Or they just made it up? Someone's food waste could be someone else's feast. So the same thing is two different things based on how we accept it. So doing the Lalita Sahasranama regularly, or doing Hanuman Chalisa and reflecting on the teachings of Hanuman Chalisa regularly is definitely going to change our attitude. So that's what we need to get to. And if we really do that with the right attitude, we don't even need 100 times. Just once is good enough. But because we don't have that attitude naturally, we need it numerous number of times. Because there's this verse, a Sanskrit verse, very simple verse, very popular verse, which is usually chanted along with the Vishnu Sahasranama, the 1,000 names of Lord Vishnu. A simple phrase, which basically, a verse, Sanskrit verse, which goes as Shri Rama Rama Rameti Rame Rame Manorame Sahasranama Tattulyam Ramanama Varanane. It's actually a conversation between Lord Shiva and Parvati. Lord Shiva is telling Parvati, what does he say? Shri Rama Rama Rama. Just 3 times chanting Rama's name. Rama Rama Rama. Iti. Likewise, Rame Rame Manorame. O consort, O beautiful one, if this name, which is so pleasant, which is so pleasing to the mind, you just chant these 3 names, this one name 3 times, Rama Rama Rama, that is equivalent to Sahasranama Tat Tulyam. That is equivalent to chanting 1,000 names. Ramanama Varanane. This Ramanama, you chant it 3 times. That is equivalent to chanting it 1,000. Like it is equivalent to chanting 1,000 name. O Parvati, O pleasant faced one, O beautiful faced one. It is equivalent to just the Rama name thrice is equivalent to the 1,000 names. Again, the what is underscored here is how we chant Lord Rama's name. Lord Rama's name should be chanted such that Lord Rama's name gives us bliss. We just do it mechanically, it's not going to give us any bliss. That's why it says, Rame Rame Manorame. It should be a pleasant experience for us as we chant Lord Rama's name. So it's not just literal chanting 3 times and, oh, I have chanted my 1,000 names today. That's not the point. The point is to completely imbibe what Lord Rama represents, what he stands for. When we imbibe it and call out to him even 3 times, that is equivalent of chanting the 1,000 names, or chanting his name 1,000 times. So again, chanting constantly is very important, and what is equally important or all the more important is how we chant those names. So when we do that, जो शतबार पाठ कर कोई छूट ही बंधी महासुख होई. छूट ही बंधी mahasukh hoi. Such a being will be freed from all the bondages, from all the problems, and he attains supreme happiness and bliss. And continuing with that, the 39th verse says, Hoye siddhi, jo yah padhe Hanuman Chalisa. One who reads or learns Hanuman Chalisa, Hoye siddhi, he attains siddhi. He becomes perfected. We have discussed in the 31st verse, if I am not wrong, Ashta Siddhi Navanidhi ke data, Asubar Deen Janaki Mata, describing Lord Hanuman, one who is the bearer of the 8 siddhis, the 8 forms of perfection, and Navanidhi, the 9 forms of precious treasures. So we've discussed how through his devotion, how through his humility, how through his selflessness, he attained all these. I'm not revisiting all those to save time. If not, please do visit the 31st verse and the slides or the videos, and we've discussed that in detail. So, Jo yeh pade Hanuman Chalisa will also become Siddhi, will also attain Siddhi, will also become a Siddha, will attain all these Siddhis. Again, why would we attain all these Siddhis? Because as we learn Hanuman Chalisa, the assumption is we understand what Hanuman stands for and we try to imbibe those in us. Only when we imbibe those will we get to the state of perfection. Just reading Hanuman Chalisa, probably not. Again, just reiterating that. So, Hoya Siddhi Sakhi Gaurisa. The last part of the 39th verse says, Sakhi Gaurisa. Who is the witness to all this? I am, Tulsidas is rather making a statement. If you read Hanuman Chalisa, you will attain the state of perfection. And Lord Shiva is the witness to all this. Sakhi Gaurisa. Lord Shiva is the witness to all this. The divine is always a witness to whatever we do. The divine is a witness to whatever we do in 3 ways. How? One, in literal sense. I'm sure we all have experience around Amma, how she's omniscient, omnipresent. She literally reads our mind out. I've given you so many examples. I don't want to repeat some of them, just to remind you how sometimes when I'm standing behind Amma to translate something, and suddenly she turns around and speaks out exactly what is in my mind, going on in my mind. So Amma seems, the divine is definitely watching us at some level, which is very difficult to comprehend and which is difficult to explain too. So that's one level. The second level that the divine is always watching us is through nature, Mother Nature, and through the laws of nature. I throw a ball up into the sky, that ball will come back and fall on me. I better be prepared for that. How is that happening? Through the law of nature, the principle of nature. So whatever I do, nature is recording it, and that has to be compensated for. So that is another way the divine is watching us. So 1, literally, in literal sense. 2, in the sense wherein the laws of nature are watching us. The third one, we ourselves are watching us. Our conscience is watching us. So that's why here it says, Sakhi Gaurisa. Lord Shiva is the conscience. Lord Shiva is the witness here. And Lord Shiva, the term Shiva can refer to the form of Lord Shiva. It can also refer to the term, uh, it can also refer to the supreme consciousness, like the Nirvana Shatkam that we chant. Mano Buddhi Hankara Chittani Naham. When Adi Shankaracharya was asked, "Who are you?" he starts listing one by one the body, the mind, the intellect, the mother, the father, the birth, the death, the five sheaths of my body, my three levels of my body, three levels of my existence, my emotions, my anger, my everything. I am none of these. And every verse ends with the term Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham. I am none of these, but I am what? I am the embodiment of Chit and Ananda. I am the embodiment of supreme consciousness, and I am the embodiment of Ananda, supreme bliss. I am the embodiment of consciousness and bliss. I am Shiva, Shivoham, Shivoham, Aham, Shiva. I am Shiva, I am Shiva. And when he says Shiva, Shiva there refers to the supreme consciousness, the supreme bliss that we experience through supreme consciousness, by realizing the supreme consciousness. So Shiva is Sakshi, could also be interpreted as your own conscience is the Sakshi. Your own conscience is watching you. You know, Lord Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva are the trinities. Lord Brahma is the creator. Lord Vishnu is the sustainer of whatever has been created in the physical realm. And Lord Shiva, the dissolver of whatever has been created. And everything that gets created has to sustain for some point of time, and it has to dissolve. It has to disappear, perish at some point of time. And everything, including our body, has to perish. When it perishes, what remains is nothing but our soul. And that soul is what we refer to as Shiva. Because Shiva is the supreme consciousness. Our soul is an infinitesimal part of that supreme consciousness. So Shiva refers to, in one way to interpret that is to refer to our own conscience. And our conscience is always watching. It's like the story, I guess I've discussed this in one of the previous scriptural discussions that we've had, are the other texts. It's a different form of the story that Amma shares. And Amma actually happened to share this story a few days ago during the daily webcast. It's slightly different from how Amma shares, but the idea is the same. There's this king who's looking for his successor. He has two sons, and he wants to find who is a more able or better successor who could take up the responsibility from him. So he's putting them through various tests, and one of the tests he puts them through is he gives them a bag filled with valuables, and he says, you need to go and hide it somewhere. Hide it somewhere that no one can find it. No one would know where you have hidden it. Both of them take on the challenge, and both of them leave. And both of them don't come back for days and days. And finally, the elder son comes, successful, jubilant that he achieved what was entrusted upon him. And the father asks him, what happened? What took you so long? He said, I tried to find a place where no one is watching me and no one would find out where I'm hiding this. I went to the town, there were so many people there. I went to the forest, there were animals and trees. I went to the desert, there were still reptiles and few animals there. I went into a cave, there was no one there. Finally, in that cave, then I dug up a pit, I put it in there, I covered it, camouflaged it so that no one can find it, and I've come back successfully accomplishing what was asked of me. And the father was quite satisfied or quite impressed by what the son achieved. But he saw that the younger son hasn't come back yet, and he waits for him for many more days. The son doesn't seem to come back at all. Finally, he comes back after many weeks or probably many months, and he comes back actually unsuccessful. He brings the bag back, and the father asks him, what happened? How come you took so long and you have not even been successful in hiding the bag somewhere? He says, I went to the town, There were a lot of people there. I knew it wasn't safe. Then I went to the forest. There were animals and trees who were witnessing. Then I went to the desert. There were still some reptiles and some plants there watching me. Then I went into this cave, and then I saw that no one is watching me. I started digging the pit, and I put it inside. And as I was covering the pit, I realized I am watching it. And what you told me was no one should watch it, or no one should know where it is. And I am watching it, and I know where it is. And I tried hiding it in very many other places. Everywhere that I tried to hide it, I was watching it, and I could never help not watch it. Similarly, like Amma says, the conscience is always a witness. The conscience always watches it. So, Sakhi Gaurisha. Shiva is the witness. The term used here in the 39th verse probably makes sense even in this way, that our conscience is always watching us. And whatever we think, whatever we say, whatever we do, our thoughts, our words, and our actions, whatever we do, whatever we perform, we should always be answerable to our conscience. So Tulsidas is reminding us of that. So it's not just about reading Hanuman Chalisa 100 times. It's to chant it with the right attitude and complement it with what we think, what we say, and what we do. It should be such that we are answerable to our conscience, or we are answerable to the divine. So that's what 38th and 39th verse are talking about. And then the 40th verse, it goes as Tulsi Das Sada Hari Chera. So Tulsi Das is signing his name off, the very last verse. But he is not signing his name off telling, look at this splendid work done. Look at this masterpiece of Hanuman Chalisa, which will be followed even years after I live, centuries after I live. That's not how he signs his name. He signs his name telling, I am nothing. I am nothing but just a servant of the Lord, of Lord Vishnu. I am Hari's Chera. I am just Hari's Chela. Chela is not even a servant. Chela is more like a sidekick who is of no significance technically. So he's highlighting the attitude of humility. Many saints, many such saint poets have this tradition of signing their names in their composition. Like Saint Tyagaraja is one of the trinities, the three main figures of the South Indian Carnatic classical music, and their compositions are still, so it's an enigma to many even today. The perfection, the depth in their compositions. People still do a lot of research just on his compositions. So Saint Tyagaraja, he typically his compositions will have the term Tyagaraja in the song, but he wouldn't have Tyagaraja as is. He would say Tyagaraja who's devoted to Lord Rama, Tyagaraja who's bowing down to Lord Mother Sita, Tyagaraja who is praising Lord Vishnu or the divine or something like that. They always sign their signature, again complementing it with humility, not announcing themselves, rather conveying a message that be humble, be devoted. Same thing with Mirabai. Mirabai was a princess in the Rajput family in the western part of India, northwestern part of India, and she was living a royal life. Though she had a royal life at her available to her, she still chose to lead a life of a saint, a simple life dedicated to Lord Krishna and ever in remembrance of Lord Krishna. And she would spontaneously compose poems in praise of Lord Krishna. Again, in her compositions too, there would be Meera. The term Meera would appear, and the very common phrase that would appear is Meera ke Prabhu Giridhar Nagar. Meera ke Prabhu, O Lord of Meera, Giridhar Nagar, one who held the Govardhan mountain in his hand, by his finger. So every time she would sign her name, it would be as if she is devoted to Lord Krishna. Krishna is bigger than me. You may praise me with this composition, but every time you remember my name, remember I have a Lord who is much greater than me, is the message Mirabai conveys through her signing of her name in her composition. Similarly, Sant Tukaram, Saint Tukaram, he's from the 17th century, again from the western part of India, from the state of Maharashtra, the central western part of India. He had this thing too. He would say Tuka Mane. Mane in Marathi, the language, local language, basically means says. So Tuka says, Tukaram, Tuka says. Tuka says what? Then there would be a message. And the message would typically devote yourself to the divine, devote yourself to the God, or let go of your ego, let go of your attachments. It would always be complemented with that message. Again, highlighting humility. So when they sign, we can always think, why are they signing their names? Why can't it be anonymous? I feel they are signing their name along with this message is much more effective than being anonymous. When they sign their name, when they don't sign their name, we may just read it and we are done. But when we see their name and we are inspired by them, and then we see that every time they sign their name with this message of humility, I feel it gets imbibed, or it gets imprinted all the more better. So I feel they're doing a service by signing their name, and not just signing their name, signing it with the message of humility, with the message of devotion. So the Lord is anyway supreme. Like we discuss every time, the divine doesn't need praise from us. God doesn't need any form of praise from us. It's only to highlight or underscore the quality of humility which we need. And the more amount of humility that we have in life, life will be much more peaceful. Many of the problems that we have in life will no more be a problem. It's like how Amma reminds us, whenever we experience the creation, remember the Creator and be thankful to the Creator. Not just the whole creation per se, even the food that we eat. Amma always says, when you eat the food, remember who cooked the food and be thankful to them. The Tuesday webcast, as it happens, when on Tuesdays Amma serves food in Amritapuri ashram and everyone is about to eat, before the Brahmarpanam is chanted, Amma reads out all the names of those who sponsored the food. And Amma repeats the same thing. Amma has been repeating it for decades now. Remember the Creator before you experience the creation. Remember all these people who sponsored these food. Thank them. Send out a positive thought, and then relish the food. So remember the Creator as we experience the creation. And here we are remembering the Creator, the composer, along with the quality of the message of humility. So all the more better. We'll read a passage, Awakened Children, Volume 1, page 144. It's about being Tulsi Das Sada Hari Chera, one who is ever the servant of the divine. So I thought this passage from Awakened Children is quite appropriate here. So here a brahmachari is asking Amma, is God the servant of the devotee? Is the God the servant of the devotee? And Amma says, yes, he is the servant of his true devotee. A true devotee is one who takes everything as God's will, both bad and good. In reality, there is nothing bad for him. Everything is seen as good and beautiful for a true devotee because for him all is God. So there is nothing to hate. Something is good and something else is bad only for a person who has likes and dislikes. But in the case of a real devotee, there are no likes and dislikes. He sees God's divine hand behind every experience and every act. For such person, is there anything that could be called bad? If he hates or dislikes something, it is the same as hating God. which is unnatural to him. In this world, there is only love. To such a devotee, God is his servant. Amma suddenly entered an abstracted mood, and as if from another world, she said, "Children, Mother is the servant of every one of you. You don't have, I do not have a particular dwelling place of my own. I dwell in the heart of all of you." And that actually leads us to the next part of the verse, wherein um, Tulsidas says, "I am the servant of Lord Vishnu, Tulsi Das Sada Hari Chera." And then he says, "Ki Jainath Hriday Mahadera." Oh Lord, make my heart your dwelling. And Amma, kind of this verse I thought was quite apt here, because after talking about God being our servant, Amma is actually talking about the dwelling. I dwell in your heart. Ki Jainath Hriday Mahadera. And that's exactly what Amma was repeating. And when you say, make your heart the dwelling place of the divine, what does it mean? The divine dwells in our heart. We take a CT scan. Would we see Lord Hanuman inside me, Lord Rama inside me, Amma inside me? Would I see a picture of Amma in the CT scan? It would happen. I would be super thrilled. But unfortunately, that doesn't happen. When you say, Amma should be in my heart, God should be in my heart, the Lord should be in my heart, Rama should be in my heart, Hanuman should be in my heart, what we are trying to specify here is that we should make our heart deserving of the divine to be in. Or in other words, make our heart abode of divine qualities. Make our heart abode of the qualities that Lord Hanuman inspires us with. Make our heart abode of the qualities that Amma inspires us with. We have discussed so many qualities of Lord Hanuman during Hanuman Chalisa, be it selflessness, be it acceptance, be it humility, be it love and compassion, be it patience, be it understanding. All these qualities, when we develop that in our heart, it automatically becomes the abode of the divine, because the divine is nothing but all these positive qualities put together. So our heart automatically becomes the abode of divine. So make our heart the divine's shrine. How do we do it? Develop those qualities within us. Our heart automatically becomes the abode of the divine. And in this context, we'll read one other passage from Awakened Children, volume 3, page 116. Just as Amma just as a mother does to her child, Amma expressed love and affection to the boy as she conversed with him. She asked his age and his grade in school. The mother said, "It seems you are very mischievous. What will be the end result of all the mischievous deeds? You will end up in trouble for them, won't you? Therefore, my child, you should study diligently and grow up as a good boy, okay?" The boy enthusiastically nodded his head in agreement with what the mother had said. The boy thereafter, "Amma, I would like your address." Amma, mother has no such thing as address. The mother took the diary from the young boy and started writing on one of the pages. Amma wrote thus, "Darling children, your happiness is mother's health. Let children's attitude of selfless service last forever. The compassion that we show towards poor and the needy is the real duty towards God. That is real service. God does not need anything from us. What we can give to the ever full one. What can we give God? God doesn't need anything from us. The whole universe belongs to him. The sun does not need a wax candle. An electric bulb does not need a kerosene lamp. These orphaned children are equal to God. God dwells in those who have the attitude, I have nobody else. Eternally blessed and blissful are those who look after them selflessly. Let children's selfless service be everlasting, darling children. A devotee wrote down the ashram address and handed it to the boy, saying, Here is Amma's address. Another devotee, Is mother's handwriting clear enough? And another devotee, It is enough if one clearly understands the meaning of what Amma has written. Amma. It is not enough if one reads Amma's words only with one's intellect. One should try to read them with one's heart too. And there it ends. So I thought that was quite appropriate, quite apt here, because it highlights on the point of what should be our attitude towards the Lord when we say, I'm of service to the Lord. Amma says, serving the poor and the needy is the best service towards God, or best service to God. And then God resides in the heart, which develops that attitude of selflessness, helping others, giving to those in need. So I feel this one passage kind of, or these two awakened children passage kind of very well summarize or elaborate on the 40th verse that we just looked at. Tulsi Das Sada Hari Chera Ki Jai Nath Hriday Mahadera. Tulsi Das, one who is ever at service of Lord Vishnu. O Lord, make the heart your abode. Make the heart your shrine. So with that, we come to the end of the 40th verse too. Let's quickly summarize the three verses that we have discussed today. Let's look at the table. The 38th and 39th verse reminded us of the points that constant practice and remembrance is very important in the path of devotion. And that creates wonder, brings in big change in us. And equally important is what? Not just constant practice, but the attitude with which we do it. It is equally important. And the 40th verse, thereafter, it says, ever behold the attitude of a servant. Be selfless. Like Tulsi Das said, the right example. Ever be selfless, ever be humble. The attitude of a servant. And make our heart deserving of the divine to dwell there. And when we say make our heart deserving of the divine to dwell there, develop the attitude, develop positive qualities, develop the attitude of patience, acceptance, love, compassion, humility, forgiveness, and all the other great qualities that Lord Hanuman has inspired us with as we went through all the 40 verses. So with that, we will conclude the discussion on all the 40 verses of the Hanuman Chalisa. We just have one postfix kind of verse left, the Doha, which we'll discuss the next week and kind of summarize all that we have discussed so far and conclude the Hanuman Chalisa discussion the next week. So I hope it makes sense, or it made sense to you, the discussion. We will now move on to the chanting or the singing of Hanuman Chalisa. Give us a few minutes. Today we don't even have the harmonium player, so I have to go down. So give us a couple of minutes. We'll quickly set it up, settle down, and then we'll chant the Hanuman Chalisa. Om Amriteshwariyai Namaha. श्री गुरु चरण सरोज रज, निज मन मुकुर सुधारि। बरना रघुबर बिमल जसु, जो दायक फल चारि। बुद्धिहीन तनु जानिके, सुमिरा पवन कुमार। बल बुद्धि विद्या देहु मोहि, हरहु कलेस विकार। जय हनुमान ज्ञान गुण सागर, जय कपीस तिहु लोक उजागर। रामदूत अतुलित बल धामा, अंजनी पुत्र पवन सुत नामा। महावीर विक्रम बजरंगी, कुमति निवार सुमति के संगी। कंचन बरन विराज सुबेसा, कानन कुंडल कुंचित केसा। हाथ वज्र और ध्वजा विराज, कांधे मूंज जनेऊ साज। शंकर सुवन केसरी नंदन, तेज प्रताप महाजगवंदन। विद्यावान गुणी अति चातुर, राम काज करिबे को आतुर। प्रभु चरित्र सुनिबे को रसिया, राम लखन सीता मन बसिया। सिया राम सिया राम सिया राम सिया राम, जय हनुमान सिया राम सिया राम सिया राम सिया राम, जय हनुमान। सूक्ष्म रूप धरि सियहि दिखावा, विकट रूप धरि लंक जरावा। भीम रूप धरि असुर संहारे, रामचंद्र के काज सवारे। लाय संजीवन लखन जियाए, श्री रघुबीर हरषि उर लाए। रघुपति कीन्ही बहुत बढ़ाई, तुम मम प्रिय भरतहि सम भाई। सहस बदन तुम्हरो जस गावै, हस कहीं श्रीपति कंठ लगावै। सनकादिक ब्रह्मादि मुनीसा, नारद सारद सहित अहिसा। जम कुबेर दिगपाल जहाते, कभी कोपिद कहि सकै कहाते। तुम उपकार सुग्रीवहि कीन्हा, राम मिलाय राजपद दीन्हा। सिया राम सिया राम सिया राम सिया राम, जय हनुमान सिया राम सिया राम सिया राम सिया राम, जय हनुमान। तुम्हारो मंत्र विभीषण माना, लंकेश्वर भय सब जग जाना। जुग सहस्र जो जन पर भानु, लील्योताहि मधुर फल जानु। प्रभु मुद्रिका मेलि मुख माई, जलधि लांघि गए अचरज नाहि। दुर्गम काज जगत के जेते, सुगम अनुग्रह तुम्हरे तेते। राम दुआरे तुम रखवारे, होत न आज्ञा बिन पैसारे। सब सुख लहै तुम्हारी सरना, तुम रक्षक काहू को डरना। आपन तेज संहारो आपै, तीनों लोक हाँकते कापै। भूत पिशाच निकट नहीं आवे, महावीर जब नाम सुनावे। सिया राम सिया राम सिया राम सिया राम, जय हनुमान। सिया राम सिया राम सिया राम सिया राम, जय हनुमान। नासै रोग हरै सब पीरा, जपत निरंतर हनुमत बीरा। संकट ते हनुमान छुड़ावै, मन क्रम वचन ध्यान जो लावै। सब पर राम तपस्वी राजा, तिनके काज सकल तुम साजा। और मनोरथ जो कोई लावै, सोई अमित जीवन फल पावै। चारों जुग परताप तुम्हारा, है परिसिद्ध जगत उजियारा। साधु संत के तुम रखवारे, असुर निकंदन राम दुलारे। अष्ट सिद्धि नौ निधि के दाता, असबर दीन जानकी माता। राम रसायन तुम्हारे पासा, सदा रहा रघुपति के दासा। सिया राम सिया राम सिया राम सिया राम, जय हनुमान। सिया राम सिया राम सिया राम सिया राम, जय हनुमान। तुम्हारे भजन राम को पावै, जन्म जन्म के दुख बिसरावै। अंत काल रघुवरपुर जाई, जहाँ जन्म हरि भक्त कहाई। और देवता चित्त न धरई, हनुमत से सर्व सुख करई। संकट कटै मिटै सब पीरा, जो सुमिरे हनुमत बलबीरा। जय 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 हनुमान गोसाई, कृपा करहु गुरुदेव की नाई। जो सत बार पाठ कर कोई, छूट ही बंधि महासुख होई। जो यह पढ़ै हनुमान चालीसा, होय सिद्धि साखी गौरीसा। तुलसीदास सदा हरि चेरा, कीजे नाथ हृदय मह डेरा। कीजे नाथ हृदय मह डेरा। पवन तनय संकट हरन, मंगल मूर्ति रूप। राम लखन सीता सहित, हृदय बसहु सुरभूप। सियावर रामचंद्र की जय, सियावर रामचंद्र की जय। पवन सुत हनुमान की जय, पवन सुत हनुमान की जय। ओ माता सीता की जय। ओ माता सीता की जय। ओ भ्राता लक्ष्मण की जय। ओ भ्राता लक्ष्मण की जय। भरत और शत्रुघ्न की जय। भरत और शत्रुघ्न की जय। सियावर रामचंद्र की जय। सियावर रामचंद्र की जय। पवन सुत हनुमान की जय। सियावर रामचंद्र की जय। पवन सुत हनुमान की जय। सियावर रामचंद्र की जय। पवन सुत हनुमान की जय। सियावर रामचंद्र की जय। पवन सुत हनुमान की जय। सियावर रामचंद्र की जय। पवन सुत हनुमान की जय। सियावर रामचंद्र की जय। पवन सुत हनुमान की जय। सियावर रामचंद्र की जय। पवन सुत हनुमान की जय। सियावर रामचंद्र की जय। पवन सुत हनुमान की जय। असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु। लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु। लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः ॐ।